have the audacity to take up space.
A life without passion is not worth living.
Welcome to the Indie Show podcast. It is a show where I interview indie authors exclusively, but only after I've read their book. It makes up for a really fun time if you've read the book.
True, true.
Yeah, so this is my first time interviewing two authors that wrote the same book, so that's pretty exciting. Why don't you tell us more about you?
So I'm J.P. Rindfleisch the Ninth. I truly am the Ninth. I'm a writer of things dark, strange, and queer. And Abe and I have written the Dark Paranormal Academy series, Leah Ackerman. And I also have some other works of my own as well. I've been at this since 2017 when I went into the basement of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and destroyed the world with 14 other indie authors, and we ended up writing an anthology together that was a post-apocalyptic anthology. So I get to say I destroyed the world, and yeah, I pretty much went into um, publishing novels with Abe. Leah Ackerman, The Dark Pawn was the first novel I published, and that was with Abe, and haven't stopped since.
What
Yeah,
about
for
you?
me, it's I started writing in 2017. I launched my first novel, The Dreamkeeper, in 2019. It was a thriller novel. I did self-publishing, published it on Amazon. And then went on you can go to like a writer's seminar where they, basically they got a bunch of writers or, amateur writers together and wanted to sponsor sort of the idea of co-authorship. And we were all in the same Slack group, and I was like, well, I'd like to write horror and fantasy. Who's with me? And then JP was like, I'm in. And so that's kind of how we started to connect. And so from that, we went on this very cool seminar called Authors on a Train. Long story short, it was a train ride from LA to Oakland, where we then stayed in a haunted house. And thanks to JP, we stayed in a haunted attic. And that served as sort of the inspiration for everything that came after.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah.
So you guys are kind of into paranormal, or is it just JP and you kind of got roped into it?
No,
I don't
no,
know,
no, no.
Abe.
Well, okay, hear me out. Okay, when we first started, like, okay, I just met JP for like 10 hours.
Oh yeah,
Eh,
this one.
Well, no, not even 10 hours. Okay, it was like 5 hours on a train. Then we're all tired. And then we walk into this like giant mansion that's kind of creepy vibes. And the first thing JP does is he starts spinning as he's walking. And I just stare at him and I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm just feeling the vibes.
And then I
So I
went
was
into the
like,
basement.
and then he went
Oh,
on his own. He went into the basement, and then
Yeah.
we had a room, and the hosts were staying at the attic. And JP was like, "I'm gonna stay out of the attic," and I was like, "No way in hell!" And so we stayed at the attic.
Yeah.
okay.
So,
Of course. Of
but
course.
okay, I also love paranormal. I also love darks. I mean, my slogan is "Freaky stories for weird people." So
Mhm.
like, yeah, I'm not strange. I'm no stranger to all of that. That said, I'm also a scary cat. Uh, to this day, I think I'm still scared of the dark. So, I mean, I feel like yeah, me and JP are both connected well that way. He's just a lot braver than I am.
Where do you find all this bravery? Because I'm with you, Abe. I love ghost stories. I love watching ghost videos. I can get into the madness, but I don't think I'd stay in the attic or in the basement. I'm a medium dweller.
Fair. I mean, I guess for me, I've always loved the paranormal and the occult. I've been like a practicing pagan, so I have the like audacity to believe that more or less I can take up the space I want to, and I enjoy the vibes, and may or may not enjoy telling certain people when they're in the attic that there's someone hovering over them because I think it might be a little entertaining for me.
Okay, but what was there something hovering over them?
For all intents and purposes, maybe.
Fair, fair, fair. Well,
But I will say, we did go to bed and didn't notice this, but the following morning there were tons of little tiny handprints all over the glass that we didn't
uh,
see the night before. I do promise that. Like Abe's nodding.
I got
no.
goosebumps like right here.
Oh, that's horrifying. Wow. Have you stayed in a haunted place after that? And
Uh,
JP's like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I have. I was at Salem at the Hawthorne Hotel, Hawthorne Inn. I had pretty big like weird things happen there.
What's your book about? Give us a quick synopsis.
So the Leah Ackerman series starts with book one, which is Dark Pawn, which is about a girl who discovers magic the night her father unalives her mother, and she gets chased by demons, joins a secret society of magic-wielding demon hunters, and that's where the story starts. And that's where book one sort of ends around that point, and we keep going with wild and crazy adventures since then.
Nice. Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. I really enjoyed your book. Let's tackle the question that everyone is wondering. I already see it in the chat, Jeremy. Don't worry, I got you. It's the third question on the list. Let's tackle the question. How does it work with two authors? How does that dynamic work?
Oh, I think that's a big question. Each couple, each author, co-authorship works differently. It got into a really good like creative flow together, and I think that that's like the first step. Create on top of what the other is creating and bounce ideas off each other. I think that's like the big picture of sort of how we connect. Now, if we get into like the technicalities of it, we've been co-writing for 5 years, and we've developed like these very intricate sort of process, right? Like, so heavy outlining where we brainstorm together and develop that together. I write the outline, JP puts comments, then I put comments on top of those comments in different colors. It's like a rainbow at the end, super great. And then from all that like very complex outline, then I graph that and sort of speed out the first outline, the first draft, right? So I write that, JP then grabs that, and then does two passes over that. So one for like structure and story, and then another for more finessing, any grammar, any spelling. Because the first draft is, I mean, very, very rough around the edges. And then after that, then we start involving editors. So for our first three books, we had a developmental editor and a line editor, and then a proofreader. And then for the last three books, the developmental editor was like, "You guys are good. You don't need me anymore." So then we just carry on with the line editor and the proofreader. And JP has like I think a heavier duty on that end. Like that's where he gets most involved, is in the finished product there. But I also get involved when we send it to beta readers, for example, because that's like right at the end stage, and then they give us comments back. Then I will go through and try to integrate some of those comments and get through it. Did I miss
Yeah,
anything? I don't know.
I don't think you missed anything, but I think that like the big thing for me with co-authoring was that it taught me to be able to separate myself from the work faster. So this is one thing that a lot of writers who don't get to experience co-authoring and end up giving their work to an editor experience, because it's that you need to change this and you run up with that like, no, I don't want to. But with co-authoring, this was something we learned, and we did it through a short story. So this is why I would really recommend, if you ever wanted to co-author with someone, try it out, maybe write a couple chapters, and then have a true moment where you make a decision whether or not you're going to continue. But we wrote the short story, and when I did the first pass, I took too much of Abe's voice out. And this is the key. We had a full conversation, and it was an open and honest conversation about like how to fix that balance. And then ever since then, I was able to sort of recalibrate and figure that part out. But during this whole thing, I think we both learned very early on that the piece that we are making is neither of ours, but it is essentially a story that we both want to tell, that can grow by having this secondary opinion and the secondary influence without having a wall or a barrier between it. We do the method of he first drafts and I second draft. I also have other co-writers that I work with, and I have one that we're doing back and forth chapters. So like they'll first draft a chapter, and then I'll go in and edit it, and then I'll first draft the next chapter, and they'll go in and edit it and write the next chapter. And so
Wow.
there are different methods for co-writing that exist, and those are the two pretty common ones.
It's crazy because if I obviously I knew it was co-author because I read and I read there were two authors in the front. But if I hadn't, if I just had ignored that, it doesn't feel like it was written by two authors. It's very cohesive. And so I applaud you for that because that sounds hard to do. Now that you've explained the process.
Yeah, yeah.
So how do you manage that, if you don't mind me asking? Is that like your editor kind of like stitches you together, or does it happen kind of early on in the
Well,
process?
a lot of it is just practice. So I would recommend anyone who's interested in co-authoring, start with a short story, and test things out, test the waters. It's not my book or his book, is our book. It's like our little child together, basically. And it's gonna have its own voice. If you read some of JP's own work, which he has great books, Mandrake Manor, amazing book. Um, and then if you read my first novel, you're gonna realize that they're very different. They sound very different from our co-authored book, and part of that is because it's a shared voice, right?
Yeah. And I would say too, like with your question of how are we sort of stitching it together, through our method with Abe first drafting, I then get the whole piece of clay and I get to sort of shape it and unify it and do what I want with it. And then he gets to see it again and say, hey, maybe we just add a little bit of embellishments, but there's never really a moment where it's almost like he gets this piece of clay and I get this piece of clay. And then we show each other at the end and we're like, okay, put it together. That's not really how this function that we work. We're sort of passing it back and forth and just refining it and making it its own thing.
Okay, but okay, let's be real. Is there any like secret hard parts that come with this that you're not telling us in your gushy story?
Well, yeah, no, we've had, I mean, we're both pretty open, but we've had arguments about, parts of the story, having decisions that we need to make. There are some really rough things that happen in this series, and like we had to have full conversations of like, do we want to go down this path? If we choose this, it has a very strong repercussion. And there was a couple things I think with like the magic system that we've talked about, and really it's ensuring that we have conversation and that when we leave the conversation, it's just like a romantic relationship in that sense. You leave the
Yeah.
conversation and you don't leave angry. So if we have to say something, we say it. And I think that that's really important.
Abe, do you have anything to add?
Nah, I think JP nailed it. Even though our ideas might not be the same, our objective is the same, and it's to make the best story possible. If there's an idea that JP gives me that I'm like completely against, I'll ask, okay, how is this moving the story forward? And that I think that's kind of like a great first step, because you need to see the repercussions on the line, especially for a 6-book series, right? This is like you see foreshadowing from the first book in the last book, so
Yeah.
you need to be very careful with the things that you end up doing because you have the butterfly effect. So many times, an idea that I originally was like not so sure about after asking that question, not only was I convinced, but then I added something on top of that, and he added something on top of that, and then we kind of work through that.
Nice. Okay, so it seems like you guys met through events. I was reading a little bit on you guys. It seems like you participate in a lot of these events. Tell the classroom. We want to join. We want to go.
Unfortunately, those events don't exist. The hosts don't run them anymore. But
Right.
they're definitely something I highly recommend. Basically, authors would get together. It was a small collective of them, and they would get together for over a weekend, and they would develop a story, like their own story pitches for short stories that would go into an anthology. The idea behind it was to sort of talk story structure, allow people to pitch their stories in a simplistic and structured form. These events were great. This is how I basically started my author career. This was the basement in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was one of these events, and then the Authors on a Train was the co-writing version of that event. highly recommend that if you, as an author, are able to go to smaller events with other authors where there's workshops or even just conversations with other authors that are happening there, like go to them and network with people.
Nice. Yeah, I agree with you. Do you have anything to add, Abe?
Like I'm a 100% extrovert. So I love going to these events. And I've been to, big events. Like I went to the Selmore Book Show, and I loved it. It was like I think it was around 100 people, 100 and some people, give or take.
Well, let's transition into kind of your voice, your characters, and I think you guys did something that is often hard to do, and that is to capture the teenage experience. I really commend you for that because they felt like teenagers, all of them.
Good.
How did you achieve that? What did you tap into?
That's a good question. I think that I will have a pretty good memory, so that definitely helps because I remember a lot of my like teenage years, and I was a counselor back in high school, so I always work with kids. And I think the first thing is to know that teenagers can make, rash decisions at times. Um, and the emotions that they feel, they feel them. But also, as a teenagers, one of the things that they want to be the most is they want to be adults.
Yeah.
And that's I think, even though teenagers can make rash decisions and have all these emotions and all that, at the end of the day, they're trying to act like adults and they're trying to make adult decisions and take on responsibility. And sometimes by trying to take more responsibility, they take more risk or they make, certain mistakes. And that's part of, I think that's a key part of being a teenager is making those mistakes and learning from them.
I think for me, I like to listen to a lot of media, so either through audiobooks or just visual media like TV shows and so I hear a lot of voices at different various levels of age, and there's definitely a teenage voice, and like Abe had said, they're impulsive, but at the end of the day, they want to be teenagers. So it's not impulsive and making these like mistakes that you as a reader would get really annoyed with, but they're mistakes that you're like, I wouldn't have done that. And then you remember, like, as a teenager, maybe I would have. And so it's sort of getting in the headset of somebody who has these impulse decisions. Well, they need to make these deep choices that lead them to be who they're going to be in the future. And I mean, I think that one of the really important things for me in figuring out character voice, which I think is what this overall conversation is about, is having sympathy for the character that you're creating and understanding that they're not your voice. And so they're going to have choices and things that they say that aren't going to match what you would say in that situation, but for you to sympathize and understand that they would say those things.
Okay. Which brings me to another question. I thought it was very interesting that two male authors chose to write in the perspective of a female teenage girl. Walk me through that a little bit.
Well,
Well,
I think that I don't know. I mean, I was raised by a single mother, and I've always been inspired, attracted, to strong women that like sort of take ownership and defy expectations. Because that's what I saw growing up with my mom, with my nana. So like that was one end, that's for sure. But I like the challenge of just trying to really empathize, like JP said, with someone that's of a different gender, right? And understanding their story, their struggle. I mean, I remember sitting down with my girlfriend, who's now my wife, and just asking her all these questions about like her period and period cramps and like, oh, so why are you craving chocolate? Are you craving this and that? And like really going in depth just to try to understand, right, like some of the experiences that like I've never been through, but I wanna understand from Leah, So I think that I think that that was one of the biggest challenges for me was that, and that drew me in for.
Yeah. For me, I always wrote female perspectives, and I also always read female perspectives. That was almost where I was always geared towards. And I also grew up around sisters. I didn't have any brothers, and I was a queer person. And it took me a little bit. It took me, I want to say, after we published the first one, to realize that I'd been queer coding my main character. It's really easy for a queer person who isn't ready to have that queer voice. It's so easy to hide behind that. And I really enjoyed Leah and sort of sitting in that experience. And that's definitely not something that I regret, but it's definitely something I realized was I was using that as sort of a tool. So it made it easy for me because I've been reading that. I've been experiencing that because that's what I've been enjoying when I was taking in media as growing up as well.
Yeah, no, I commend you. She's very convincing teenage girl. Even, the little crushes she has across the book, the way that she deals with that was very well done. I didn't feel even, usually I'm a little hesitant when a book written by men talks about cramps, but the way you did it and the way she weaponizes that was actually quite hilarious. And I
Good.
really
Yeah.
enjoyed it because I would do the same.
Well, and I
Right?
mean, let it be known. I think we also make the extra effort to get beta readers that
Yeah.
are women that to verify as well.
Yeah. You had an interaction there at the end between Paige and Leah that they have sort of understanding. I didn't expect that. Why did you make that choice? Without giving any spoilers, because I already read down there that there's a couple of people that added it to their TBR.
JP, you go ahead. I'm
Okay.
really bad at not
Okay.
spoiling things,
No,
so
it's
I'll
fine.
let you handle it.
So I mean, Paige is set up to be the mean girl, right?
Yeah.
And I think that one thing we wanted to always have were characters that were morally gray. And it's really silly of us to have a mean girl that remains a mean girl where we don't get to actually see that side of her. And I want to say at first we might have left her originally as just this full on mean girl. But then I think we had that moment where we were like, maybe not. Maybe we hit some morally gray stuff. So I'll leave it there because I don't want to do any big spoilers. But I think that that was the key was we
Okay.
want characters who we see depth to, that we see
Yeah.
that they can make that connection to.
Well, and I think one thing I would add, every person has a story, and me and GP had made sure to really go through the story of each of the characters. A lot of the times, those stories are not even in the book, but
Yeah.
you need that. If you're going to write about someone, you need to know them and understand them so that you can empathize with them. Again, we go back to that concept of empathy. So, I mean, Paige is more than just a bully, and I think that can be said for a lot of, not all, but a lot of people who were bullies at one point or another. I think there's a lot that goes behind closed doors that made them do the things they do. So um, that's where sort of we were trying to go with that.
No, it was well done. I didn't expect it and I enjoyed it a lot. Um,
Excellent.
so there's a lot of symbolism in this book. So much that I feel like I would have to read it again just so I can chip away at it because there's so much. One of my favorite moments is that at the beginning, her father wanted her to wear blue. And she had a blue dress and a black dress, and she chose the black dress. And at the end, she said, and I don't think this is a spoiler, that's fine. I don't mind black because black suited me better anyway. I don't know why that just stuck with me so much. Why did you decide? Like, am I overthinking it? No.
No, I'm not gonna say anything. No, I, I think everything is always up for interpretation. We always try to put little Easter eggs, put little things here and there that you know, tease the story. But a lot of the times, I think it's also a matter of just like showing teenage rebellion. Teenage is a time where people start to find themselves and really question themselves and who they are, right? So even though Leah's dad thinks that she looks better in blue, Leah now has her own opinion, and that's what she's gonna go for. So
Yeah.
it's kind of, it shows that next step in growing up and in maturing.
So, I mean, I don't know if you wanted to talk about the magic system at any point, but there was a reason. I think the whole system or this whole story was sort of built upon our our way of intersecting at the tree of life and into mysticism because
Yeah.
of our different paths. And so I love symbolism. I love strange things. I love, demon lore and all of these things. I love tarot. So any option that I can add in some strange little thing. I mean, black. I mean, what is that associated with, right? So that one is pretty clear one in terms of symbolism and what that sort of means as her as a character. And so yeah. I'll leave it there.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the magic system. You best believe I have plenty of questions about your magic system. So yes, it's very intriguing. It's very fun. I want to know how you came up with it before I do all the other questions.
Well, I think we cannot talk about the magic system without talking on our different backgrounds. I mean, JP, he's a queer pagan from Illinois. And then I am a Venezuelan Jewish boy that just came to the United States when I was 17 for college. So we have very, very different backgrounds. That said, both Judaism and paganism, they have a lot of overlap when it comes to esoteric and mysticism. And for a long time, I love mysticism, and I've always been obsessed with the Kabbalah. And so I kind of, I was very drawn to all those concepts, and JP was as well. So it just felt natural for us to develop it that way.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of Jewish influence in this book. I learned so much just Googling terms. That it seems like for me, it felt more Jewish than pagan. I can definitely see the
Mhm.
pagan now that you mentioned it, but it definitely feels more Jewish. Why did you guys decide to do that?
I really wanted to explore this. Now, I all was like a credit or two away from being a religious studies minor. Um, I again, I felt like this was a really great opportunity to sort of tell this Jewish story that I didn't get to really experience and that I could really start to explore. So that fascinated me. And that's sort of how we fell into it. I felt like I could sort of layer in the occult and the paganism, but that we could really ground it in this sort of like Jewish structure as we went through the story.
Yeah, it was
Right.
well done. It was fun. I was not expecting a Jewish-based magic system, and I loved every second of it, actually.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, I think also the Kabbalah itself, and we go more in depth about this in the second book, but the Kabbalah itself is, I mean, it is Jewish mysticism, but it's also a key component in a lot of paganism and
Hmm.
esotericism. So,
Yep.
um, so on that end, it felt very natural. And I think the Jewish influence, I am a Jewish boy, so it does come. Like I wanted to have, I just, okay, this is like maybe a personal thing, but growing up, I would see a lot of, Holocaust books, and those were the Jewish books, right? It's World War II books and survival books. And all the credit to them, but I wanted to see a strong Jewish protagonist that's, not necessarily going through the Holocaust, but using magic to kill demons. I think that, I mean, I like that idea. It was
Yes.
empowering. I think it's just super cool to show, and super cool to show the different cultures that come with being Jewish. So that for me was, I think, one of the main motivators. And this day and age, I've seen a couple more authors that have published some more Jewish fantasy, but it's definitely not common, not
No,
the rule at all. So
definitely.
so to me, I think this was our little grain of sand to try and push that, and like that idea forward, and that idea of an empowering you being a protagonist. And
I
yeah.
loved it. Loved it. I didn't know I needed that, and I needed it. It sparks a lot of interest for sure, and it was very well executed, I think. But then you guys threw me a curveball and added voodoo in there. What?
Hmm. Yep. Um, So this one's probably from me, because one thing we really wanted to do was have a magic system that we could always come back to, but have variations of it that exist. And to me, like especially with occult and paganism, there's so many things just link and connect to each other. It really every religion functions like a tree. Every belief truly does. There's roots, and then there are things that span off, but almost everything is connected. And so I wanted to give a nod to voodooism, just because I absolutely love it. I wanted to give another nod to another culture. I tried my best to do, like with Abe and I, we tried our best to be respectful of it, but include it because I think that, especially with having this main Jewish character, we wanted to represent culture and really show it in different functions. And this will be something that you may see later on in the story with different groups that we sort of interact with. Um, have them be their own unique twist in our world, but try to be respectful towards like the history or the weight that's carried with it as well.
When you set out to do a fantasy world, did you always want to leverage religion? Is that something that's really part of your like author identity, or was it something that just came out of nowhere? I just find it so interesting that one, you leveraged religion. It's something that most people shy away from. And two, that you did it so well and like made the world, you didn't make a preachy book. I didn't feel
Mhm.
preached on. You ignited in me an interest for these cultures, which is I think what you wanted to do. And you did it really, really, really well. So where did this leveraging religion idea come from?
For Judaism, it's easier to do because Judaism is more than just a religion. It's like a culture or a set of cultures and identities and ethnicity. When we brought it into this book, Leah's identity as a Jew was always there. And I think her religious costumes are always there, but I don't know. I think that when you see things like voodoo, or I don't, there's other societies that we're not going to talk about because they're in their future books. But we just wanted to like explore and experience, different ideals and different ways of looking at the same thing. Because at the end of the day, I think that that's what all religions are, right? Like JP
Yeah.
said, they all connect to the tree of life, and all of these uh, religions or factions or societies or secret societies that we have, they all ended up connected to the same thing, just in a different way.
Yeah. And I would say when we were crafting the story at the start and we realized that intersection that we had with the Tree of Life, for me, that really sparked this desire to have this fantasy world overlaid on our real world as much as possible. And in order to do so, there are established beliefs and like cultures that we could use properly into our story, as opposed to being like, oh, this one's a magic user that looks a little hoodoo and like, does, the little hoodoo dolls and then we're good to go. And doesn't really address the whole weight behind that. I think that that was something I really wanted to explore. I've always loved religion as a concept. I mean, in paganism, I think I have world religion books around me everywhere. It's just one of my fascinations. And um, not all of my stories have religion as like part of the magic system, but I think that this one laid framework for it that was just so easy to use.
It was very well done. I don't think I've seen it as well done as you guys did, and I am very intrigued to read the next books that were so well written, very well edited. They were very professional and fun to read, easy to read, accessible, but also challenging because you have so many like terminology that I am unfamiliar with. And I love a book that makes me research. So I just want to commend you on that. Um,
Thank
you
you.
did a great job. But let's go away from religion and let's talk about sunsets because you guys describe all types of sunsets in this book. Do you guys
It's
often stare into the sunset together while you're writing? Like, walk me through it because there were so many sunsets and I enjoyed all of them. I trust me, I love a good sunset.
uh,
That's
this is
really
a new
funny.
one.
No,
I've
that's
never.
really funny though. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think we've ever received a comment about all the sunsets, but I mean, because it's the end of the light and the beginning of the dark.
I mean, I think too, to sort of pull a curtain behind being one of our earlier books. Sunsets are a really easy tool to acknowledge a close of a scene. So
Okay.
it's probably an early writer tool that we had. You'll probably see less sunsets as we move on.
Oh.
But they'll still have their place in there.
Yes, and with that said, your book is full of like really beautiful contrast because your book has beautiful sunsets and then it has really creepy scenes. Like there
Hmm.
is genuinely creepy. Like there are some scenes that I was like, ah, like, and so are you guys? I think you mentioned it earlier in the interview. You guys are horror fans. Like you're because I'm into the paranormal stuff because I think it's fun. I love studying up on the occult. I think it's fun. But to get me to watch a horror movie, you're gonna have to be a very good. Like you're gonna have to like. We're gonna have to get paid in an alcohol and a prayer. Like I need to be bribed.
But we do love horror. It's like
Yeah.
a thing. And we like to make our characters suffer, which sounds sadistic, but we promise we're normal.
Abe has a really good talent with like body horror, or like with a lead up to creepy things that are said and then body horror. And I think I really like the lurking horror and sort of that. So like our talents intertwined make for a really creepy moment. For me, I was the youngest of three. I watched The Exorcist and Silence of the Lambs by the age of 6.
You see what I'm
Um,
dealing with? You see what I'm dealing with here?
so
Wow.
so
You,
I am very used to horror movies. I hate like really gruesome body horror. So like I'm okay
uh,
with Saw, but I don't love it. I have my limits, but when it comes to supernatural horror, I'm all over that. I love it.
and you mentioned like that Abe is good at body horror. And that's a good thing that you mentioned that because I noticed that the way your descriptions of the way that like their bodies like detach from just the way that you described the gruesome, like this is a creature, like this is a demon thing, were very, very good. Usually in those scenes, I kind of have to reread the paragraph couple of times to be like, okay,
Hmm.
wait, where's his hand? Where's his face? But you guys did a really good job. And that's actually one of my comments further down is that you guys do action scenes really, really well. Uh,
Oh,
who,
nice.
Good.
who starts that? Who is the beginner of the amazing choreograph of those action scenes? Because they were all great. There was not a single one that I was like, oh, this was kind of lame. No, they were good.
Yeah, I think I was gonna put you, dude. I was gonna put you, JP. That's so funny. No, I think that I mean, okay. The two things that you mentioned, which is body horror and action scenes. So they both relate to this. I'm a huge anime fan, so I
Okay,
love anime.
I
You
got that.
know,
I got that.
right, right. I mean, Attack on Titan for me, Attack on Titan is like a masterpiece in storytelling. That for sure is one. The action scenes are really, really fun to write. It's really easy. You need someone else to come in and finesse it. It's a joint effort at the end of the day. It's a co-authorship. It's
Yeah.
easier when you have a second pair of eyes going through everything.
Yeah, and like I think for both Abe and I, like Abe is an engineer. I have a background in like sciences. We both have pretty good like spatial reasoning.
Yeah.
And I think that really helps because he'll lay the framework and then I can just sort of like make sure it fits.
It's really well done, and you know horror, you guys combine, like I said, you have make a really strong team at the end. You and I don't think this is a spoiler. If anything, it's like a little like little tease so that the new people in the chat go buy your book right now. You put this line that says, we are all just someone's dark pawn in a game we can't control, aren't we? I mean, let's talk about that line and your next books. What does that set the tone, or is that a nod to the name? Like, talk to me.
One of my favorite things about movies is when in the movie it says the title of the movie. It just makes me laugh every time and you just want to wait for it and you just want it to happen and then you're like, got it.
I think it was on one of our calls, JP started to come up with titles that started with a D. So, oh, okay, Dark, great. Demon, okay, and then Deceived. And then he started to come up with like, yeah, should I keep going? Deceived Bishop, and
Oh,
then
I see.
Dormant Rook, and then Dire Queen,
He's
and
ready.
then coming out next year, Divine King. And I was like, all right, yeah. He just kind of, and this was all him. Yeah, he just dropped the mic, and I was just like, I hate it. No, I'm just kidding. No, I was like, oh, that's awesome. What that ended up doing is that the title ended up inspiring a lot of the things that were happening in each book.
Um, do you guys have like a do you have like an open chat between you guys? Like if you have an epiphany at 3 a.m., how do you communicate? Like, do you call each other?
I wonder who that is. Someone leaves me voice chats at 2 in the morning.
3 minute longs. I think that that's one big thing about our co-authorship is that sort of open communication. So we text each other a lot.
What about you, JP? Do you have some epiphanies, like midnight epiphanies as well?
It's usually when I'm editing, I'll sort of come up with an idea and then I'll toss it his way and sort of mention it. And then we might have a pause where I need to sort of tease a piece out.
So technically, what do you have? Like a shared Word doc, like a docs file? How does the from a technical standpoint, right? For all of us that have never co-authored, how does this work?
Google Drive.
You have a lot of little rhymes and like again, your book is creepy, and my favorite was little Leah wants to play, but will she make it through the gray or be trapped and have to pay? Did you write those? Like, where did they come from? They're so good.
I mean, like, I grew up on Charmed. So
Oh, okay.
Charmed was all about three witches who are in this house. They have a book of shadows. Nearly every spell they do rhymes. So like
Oh,
that. I had Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I had all like Hocus Pocus. Like I was very used to like witch incantations that rhymed and were creepy sometimes. And so there was just always this like nursery rhyme thing that, if I want something creepy, nursery rhyme it away.
Another thing that you did that stuck with me was when they were in the voodoo area. I'm not gonna say more than that. The character says you actually should be stark naked, but you all like your modesty. And that one stuck with me because it was like such a nod. Like usually we acknowledge non-American cultures more and celebrate those more. And in a book that has like so many cultural stuff happening, I just thought that was such a respectful nod to like American modesty.
Modern culture has a lot of modesty around it. And so, like, that was sort of where I was coming from. And as an angle, I think that Leah really is being put into this strange world where she has to have all these barriers. And so, like, one of them is definitely this modesty. And so, like, that was just another nod to it.
So a lot of things that authors struggle with is usually writer's block. I feel like when you have two people, does that happen? Or do you kind of like when you one's in a slump, you like real, you kind of carry back up, or how does that work?
I think writer's block happens mostly on the first draft.
Okay.
It's because it's when you're really like pushing your creative engine to the limit. A writer's block a lot of times is that too many options. If you don't have anyone to talk it with, then that's how you can really get stuck. And that's why JP and I have always promoted the idea that writing shouldn't be done solo. Like you can write your own story, but even writing in a group, writing in a community, writing with other people, you can always bounce ideas back and forth. That I think it's really important. But I also think that there are other times where writer's block is just the lack of options, right? Where you just think that the characters just reach this trench and it's just there's nothing to flow. It just you're just stuck,
Yeah.
right? Uh, but the solution is exactly the same. We meet every Sunday. Uh, Especially the first couple of years, we did it religiously. It was easy because it was COVID too, but even to this day, we meet it. We try to meet every Sunday.
Okay.
Um, and for an hour or two, we just go about it, and we talk. And so whenever I feel stuck about something, I mean, there's a reason why we have the outline too, right? The outline really helps avoid writer's block, but even then, it does happen from time to time. But it's just a matter of talking it through.
Do you guys work on that outline on those Sunday meetings? Like, is the outline a group effort?
Yeah, I mean, we brainstorm a lot of it on those. I think we do like 2 or 3 sessions of just brainstorming and writing things down. But then, like, I'll write down the first sort of like I will have a first go at it. Then JP will go through it, put comments on each scene. Then I'll go through it and put comments on his comments, and then we'll have a whole conversation and just kind of like have the joint conclusion at the end of that.
I was just going to add to the commentary about writer's block. With my own fiction that I write, I tend to do serialized fiction. So by doing that, every like week I'll have a chapter that I've drafted, edited, and published, and then I'm not going back to that chapter. And so there's a thing that prevents me from going back to the beginning, which are always helpful. And then it keeps me accountable because I either have like an expectation to publish a chapter a week, or like I just ended a contract with a company where I was doing 2 chapters a week. And so I had a contract, I had no choice. And so if you have no choice, you can't have writer's block because there's no choice. And that really helped me, honestly. And then the other thing too was whenever I sort of like run into a stop and I just can't write, that's when I do the thing that Abe is talking about, where you take a step back. And this is something I learned from corporate world, but it does help with writing, is the 5 whys. So it's sort of like, why am I stuck? And having to verbalize that and having to answer it out loud helps. And so it might be like, why am I stuck? Well, my character is not doing what I want them to do. Why aren't they doing what they want them to do? Well, because I'm trying to get them to this point. Why are you trying to get them to that point? Well, because I need them to get there for the story. Why do you need to get them to the story? And like petering it down. And maybe the answer is that you're trying to move the plot forward without developing your character. And now, like, you can already see through that conversation, that's where I was headed to with this question. Well, that is a step back now, because now I'm trying to move the plot without actually recognizing the character growth. And maybe what I'm doing is I'm not looking at, in this scene, I'm making this character make a choice that is incongruent to the growth that they're supposed to be making, but I'm still rewarding them with the plot. And that's wrong. That's not right. So now I need to look at, how can I either reward them and move that plot forward, or do I need to change the plot?
So you said you did serialize. So are you both indie authors, or have you kind of JP transit, or any of you transition into some traditional contracts? What's talk about your careers?
I published my first book, The Dreamkeeper, as an indie, mostly because I'm an immigrant and I was under an H-1B. So under an H-1B, usually you cannot have 2 jobs. So what I did is I had, an editor, and then we did it through him, and it was sort of like that. We worked through, that editor that's like also a close friend of mine allowed me to publish that first book and make it an indie publish. Since then, my main focus has been on the Leah Ackerman series for the past 5 years. Once I finish the last book that I'm writing now, I'll potentially pivot to there's other stories that I want to write. There's a couple of stories that I have in mind.
Okay, I'll try to be fast. So I started back in 2017. I published the 4 short stories, and then published Dark Pawn with Abe in 2022. I wrote Mandrake Manor, which was my first solo project, which is a story about 3 friends who inherit a house, become the neighborhood witches. It's very much like Charmed, but it's queer. And so I published that one, and then I worked on another project called Mosswood Apothecary, which launched in 2024, I think. Yeah, 2024 in March. And that one went really, really well. That was roughly around the summer of 2024 when Tapas, which is a competitor to Kindle Vella, they own Radish, for those that want to know. And it was originally a webtoon platform that now moves into web novels. They wanted to acquire Mosswood Apothecary, but due to how it was doing over on Kindle Vella, I made an agreement with them for a new project. So that
Cool.
project launched in May of this year, and it's called The Greatest Storm Mage Needs a Break. That was like my first big contract sort of deal that I was doing with them. And so it sits with them. It's a Tapas original or Tapas exclusive project. And so that will be there for at least 3 years, if not longer, and they'll hopefully be getting other rights. And then I'm currently in the process of acquiring an agent and maybe doing some right stuff for some of the projects that I have.
Exciting stuff. You're like the
Yeah.
ultimate co-writer, it seems. You're like the
I
industry's most coveted co-writer.
I do enjoy co-writing. It just they all ended up sort of by accident.
We have a question from the chat from Ivy. How do you guys blend your ideas if you work together?
We never say no.
Mhm.
I think it's one of the biggest ones. I think we've said that. Just we really try to bounce off of each other and just keep upping up. JP, anything you want to add there?
Yeah, I would say anyone who is sort of looking at doing co-writing, looking at doing this sort of idea blending, look at actual plays of tabletop games from improv actors. It sounds like such a weird left field thing, but what it shows you is a group of very well trained people who are generally there for the comedy. So they're always there for the yes and that's why I highly recommend like improv people or like going to Dropout TV and watching some of the Dimension 20s, because you have a game master, somebody who has the rules and they have the story that they want to tell, and then you have the characters around the table, and the characters around the table are going to change those rules and they're going to change that story. And at no point is the game master going to get frustrated. No point is the game master going to get mad. They're going to say yes and they're going to say, this was what I originally had for my idea that I wanted to share with you, but I'm going to let you grow in your character and what you want to do, and we're going to work together to craft a story for our watchers or our listeners in order to tell a good story.
Yes, no, absolutely. I definitely agree with that. And actually, the previous live, there's a couple of people that were part of that in the chats where we did a crazy game night where the only rule was yes and so that
Yes.
was there were koalas involved, there were hot pink rainbows, we had a great time. But yes, it's important to kind of exercise that muscle of like, don't say no, just
Hmm.
elaborate. That's really cool. So, okay, if you don't mind sharing, because I know people are thinking about it, but no one's gonna ask, and that's my job as a host. How does the money work?
Oh, yeah. We contract.
Okay,
Always sign a contract. I don't care if money is getting involved. I don't care. Sign a contract. Figure it out.
Yep.
You got to sign a contract. We did 50-50. We agreed to it. It's signed. We don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Um,
fair enough. Are you guys successful with your? Is that series successful financially? You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but I always ask the question.
I mean, well, I want to hear what UGP has to say first.
I think it has plenty of room to grow, but it does have a very loud, not loud, but strong fan base. The
Yeah.
Okay,
people that have read it do love it.
Yeah,
yeah,
If
people
you
who read
head
it
over,
swear for it. Yeah.
it's
yeah,
hard not to. Once you sink your teeth in it, it's hard to let it go.
yeah. It has a strong base. It has plenty of room to grow. In terms of is it successful? I think defining success in terms of money, no. In terms of fans, yes.
And it's when I talk to people like you or other people that that I've met that they have no reason to be nice, but but they still reach out, they still say they love it. And I keep hearing that a lot more. And that I'm just like, I mean, we have a good story. It's just a matter of,
You do.
getting there.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we are here in the last leg of the interview where we ask you to give us some precious advice to either your younger self or baby authors that are coming up, or heck, even people that are considering co-authoring.
This was something that I think it took me a little bit to get into it. And I'm not giving anyone permission because they need to take that permission, but have the audacity to take up space, to have the voice that you want to have. Um, you're allowed that. No one is there with a little clipboard telling you no, you can't have this voice, that you don't represent whatever group that you are a part of or anything like that. You are a voice and you are allowed to use that voice in any which way that you so choose.
Yes, sir. Abe?
How can I follow that? Tell me.
You wanted me
See,
to go first. That's
this
on
is
you.
my life. I do this to myself all the time. Um, I think don't don't be scared to put yourself out there because most people are as scared as you, if not more. And most people will, at a minimum, respect you for trying, and for doing what you're doing. I think that everyone has a story to tell, and every story is precious. So if you're hesitating, if you are concerned, if you don't think you can make it, I mean, look at me, dude. I barely speak English. Like, I learned English when I was like, oh, I had to learn at 17, and here I am. I wanted to write. I was at a point in my life where I felt more comfortable writing in English than in Spanish. And as an indie author, it made more sense to go write it in English. So, I took a chance. I mean, the worst thing that can happen is what, really? It's all a matter of just expectations, or how far you're willing to push. So to me, I love writing stories. I love storytelling. So it's just something that I know I'm gonna do until the day I die, and it gives me joy.
All right. That's a great advice. Now, I always ask my authors to give me a one liner. It could be a quote from your book, it could be your life's dogma. One liner, one sentence that encompasses who you are and what you do.
A life without passion is not worth living.
Be unapologetically queer. I don't even care if you're not queer. Be unapologetically queer.
Amen.
Hashtag retweet.
All right, shameless plug. Where can we find you? What's next? Books, events, signings, whatever you got. Now's the time to make everyone follow you and where's your stuff?
So this account, this JP Rindfleisch Bookshop, this is the place to go. For anyone that's listening to the podcast on Spotify or YouTube, it's my name, JPRINDFLEISCH_bookshop on TikTok. And that will get you direct sales for all of the books in physical copy. I do the wrapping sometimes on lives and also have videos of them as well. You can check them out there. That is the best way to support indie authors is either through their TikTok shops or direct through them, just so that you know. And you can find us pretty much everywhere. You can find this book on Amazon. It is exclusive to Kindle Unlimited, but the physical copies are available everywhere.
Yep. And then for me, you can go on my website, which is abcohenwrites.com. You can find all of our books there. You can find my first book, The Dream Keeper, there. You can also find all of our short stories. Fun fact, all of our short stories that are related to this series are free. So if you're not feeling like you want to buy all these books right away and you want to taste something, you can start with one of the short stories. We advise starting with Cursed Jade, which is the prequel, and that way you get a sense of where the story is and a flavor of our voices before going and diving in. And we know that you're gonna dive in anyway, so you can go ahead. But
Yeah.
then you can also follow me at AB Cohen, right here, this link, AB Cohen author on TikTok. Also on Instagram as AB Cohen Writes. You can also follow me there. Um, all of our books are like JP said, they're in KU, but also my book, The Dream Keeper, is in KU and it's also on Amazon in general. So yeah. Yeah.
And
And I will say if you want to go, and you can get them on my link in my profile. So if you go on my link, you can click on Cursed Jade. You can also find my website and find all the other short stories, and they'll take you to a place where the only thing we need from you is an email, and then you'll be in our newsletter. We have over 1,000 subscribers now, and I send emails every 2 weeks. They're fun, uh, fun updates about our writing. I post photos of Snoopy, my dog, to make it even more fun and cute. So
All right. Well, thank you
Cool.
guys so much for coming in and for giving us so much amazing feedback about your experience and writing your books. And also, thank you for giving us your book because it's really good. I really recommend it. It's been one of my favorite reads this year, and I've read 27 books this year. So,
Wow.
Nice.
Thank you so much. Wow, that's high praise. And I we really appreciate it. This was a great interview. I had a lot of
Yeah,
fun. So
this was
thank you.
really
Thank you
fun.
so much. Yeah.
I'm so glad you enjoyed yourself. That's what I try to do. It's always funner
Excellent.
when you read the book.
Yeah, yeah, agreed.
Agreed. Agreed for sure.
Well, thank you guys so much. I will definitely be reading the other ones and staying tuned. And maybe I'll invite you back once I've read all of them.
Ooh,
Yeah, that will be so fun. I'm down.
Well,
very
thank
Sounds
nice.
good.
you. Have a great night and
You
good
too.
Thank
luck.
you. Thank you. And thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye.